Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into the latest from Databricks. We're looking at the June 2025 release notes covering, what was it, June 2nd up to June 27th?
Yeah,
And as usual, we've waded through those official notes to, pull out the really important stuff, the technically relevant bits for you, without all the noise.
exactly. And, with Databricks, these updates land pretty much weekly. Staying on top of them isn't just, well, nice to know. It's actually pretty critical if you're working deep in their ecosystem. These aren't always just tiny tweaks either. Sometimes they signal bigger strategic moves or capabilities that really change how you might build things.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start unpacking this. They seem to have made some significant strides in just the core platform. Stability, performance. What's really jumping out for technical folks here?
Well, big theme this month is stuff hitting general availability, GA. So first off, Databricks Runtime 17.0 is now GA.
Okay, 17.0 GA, good baseline.
Right. It means the latest runtime's fully baked, production ready, brings that core stability and the newest optimizations.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the foundation.
And building on that, I saw automatic liquid clustering also hit GA. Now, for those of us who've, spent way too many hours trying to figure out the perfect clustering keys,
Yeah.
what's the real deal here? Does it actually make that obsolete?
Well, it's a huge step towards making it obsolete.
Yeah.
Automatic liquid clustering, it intelligently figures out the best clustering keys for your data layout
Okay.
automatically.
Nice.
Yeah. So less manual tuning, less guesswork for your engineers, and it delivers a pretty significant performance boost, especially, for Unity catalog managed tables. It's really about shifting that optimization headache from you to the platform.
Okay, that sounds genuinely useful.
And tied into that performance story, serverless performance targets is also GA now.
Ah, right. This gives you more control over the cost speed dial, doesn't it?
Precisely. You can now explicitly choose performance modes for your jobs and pipelines. Either you go performance optimized, faster startup, faster execution, or you choose standard performance.
Which saves costs, but might be a bit slower.
Exactly. A bit higher latency, but potentially cheaper. It really lets you tailor the compute to the specific needs of that workload. Control is the key word there.
That level of control is, incredibly valuable. Okay, so moving from pure performance, let's talk governance and security. For big organizations, this is where things get really complex, right? And Unity Catalog seems to be right in the middle of a lot of these updates.
Absolutely. Unity Catalog is definitely cementing its role as the central nervous system for governance on Databricks. And one really fascinating thing, just hitting public preview, is bring your own data lineage.
Bring your own lineage. What does that entail? Like connecting external tools.
Exactly. It lets you pull in lineage information from assets outside Databricks. Think Salesforce, or maybe a MySQL database where data originates, or even downstream tools like Tableau or Power BI where it's consumed.
Wow.
The idea is to get a true end-to-end view of your data's journey, not just the bits inside the lakehouse. That's incredibly important for auditing, for compliance, for just understanding data flow.
So it's connecting those dots across the whole ecosystem. That sounds like a pretty ambitious goal.
It is. And managing all that data, especially with fine-grained permissions, leads to the next thing. Attribute-based access control, or ABAC, that's now in beta within Unity Catalog.
ABA. So access based on attributes like tags.
Precisely. You can set up dynamic access policies based on tags applied across catalogs, schemas, tables. Imagine defining a policy once, say for data tagged as PII or EU region.
And it just applies automatically wherever that tag exists.
You got it. It uses those tags, even UDFs, for really fine-grained control. This could massively simplify governance when you're operating at scale. And to make ADAC work smoothly, tag policies are also in beta.
Makes sense. Need consistent tagging for tag-based rules.
Right. Admins can now enforce rules for tags, like defining allowed keys and values. It helps standardize your metadata, which is crucial for classification, cost tracking, maybe even triggering automation.
That feels like a very enterprise-grade step. What about more operational security, day-to-day controls?
Yeah, they've tightened things up there too. Monitoring and revoking personal access tokens, PATs, is now GA for account admins.
Ah, PATT is always a bit of a security headache.
They can be. So now admins have better visibility and, importantly, the power to revoke them centrally. Databricks is also, strongly recommending moving towards OAuth where possible, which is generally more secure.
Good advice.
And for organizations needing really strict outbound control, especially with serverless managed network policies for serverless egress control, is GA.
Okay, controlling where serverless compute can send data. Like SQL warehouses.
Exactly. SQL warehouses, model-serving endpoints. You can now configure and enforce policies defining exactly which external domains or storage locations they're allowed to talk to.
Like an outbound firewall.
Pretty much. You can create allow lists, prevent data exfiltration, meet compliance rules. It even has a dry run mode so you can test policies before flipping the switch, and denial logs for auditing.
This style.
Also on the security front, for sharing data securely, OIDC Federation for Databricks-to-open Delta Sharing is now GA. This lets you use secure federated authentication with JWTs from your own identity provider. And one more thing for highly regulated environments. There's expanded feature support for FIPS-compliant environments. Things like model serving on CPU and GPU, foundation model APIs, Mosaic AI Gateway. They're now available under standards like FedRAMP Moderate, IRAP, Canada Protected B.
Okay, that covers a lot of ground on governance and security. Let's pivot to AI and ML. This space is just, well, exploding on Databricks, isn't it? Seems like updates are coming thick and fast, not just for models, but managing and securing them too.
Absolutely. The theme here is really about maturing the AML capabilities for serious production-level governed use. And a big one is MLfLow 3.0. It's now generally available.
MLflow 3.0, what are the key highlights there?
Well, it brings state-of-the-art tracking, observability, and evaluation, not just for traditional ML models, but also for Gen AI apps and, importantly, AI agents. But the really crucial part for many orgs, it now supports all the Databricks compliance security profile standards.
Like IPO, PCI.
Exactly. IPA, PCI DSS, FedRAMP Moderate. This makes MLfLow 3.0 suitable for use cases in even highly regulated industries. It's about bringing that enterprise readiness to the ML lifecycle.
So building models is one thing, but ensuring they meet those tough regulatory bars is another. Makes sense.
Precisely. And speaking of enterprise readiness for AI, the AI Gateway is now GA.
AI Gateway, the central management point for Gen AI models.
Right. It gives you that unified interface for managing different models. Could be Databricks models, third-party ones, whatever. It provides governance, monitoring, things like permissions, rate limiting, payload logging, usage tracking, all the stuff you need for production.
And I saw something about custom rate limits.
Yeah, it's new and quite powerful. You can now set custom rate limits not just at the endpoint level, but also per user, for a specific user, a service principal, or even a user group.
Wow, that's granular.
Super granular. Gives you immense control over how those potentially expensive Gen AI models are consumed, prevents abuse, manages costs effectively.
Very practical for large deployments. Now, what about enabling more advanced AI agents and dealing with all that unstructured data we have lying around, like PDFs?
Yeah, good question. There's some exciting beta features here. First, you can now use PDFs in Agent Bricks. There's a UI workflow that helps convert PDFs into Markdown.
Ah, making them usable as input for it.
Exactly. Input for things like information extraction or feeding into a custom LLM within Agent Bricks makes tapping into that PDF knowledge much easier.
Okay, that's handy.
And related to that, there's a new AI function in beta called a Parse document.
A Parse document. Sounds like it does what it says.
Pretty much. It uses a state-of-the-art Gen AI model under the hood to pull structured information out of unstructured documents. Think extracting key fields from invoices or reports automatically. Simplifies that whole data prep piece for AI.
That can save a ton of time.
Definitely. And then for building more capable and, frankly, more reliable AI agents, Databricks now supports the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, also in beta.
MCP Model Context Protocol, what's the core idea?
Think of MCP as like a universal translator or a secure API standard that lets your AI agents talk to various tools and data sources within your organization.
So instead of building custom connections for everything an agent needs?
Right. Instead of point-to-point integrations for accessing, say, a database, a CRM, an internal wiki, MCP provides a consistent, secure interface. The agent can ask for context, and the MCP server, either managed by Databricks or a custom one you run, handles fetching it securely. Makes agents smarter, more grounded, and easier to build.
That sounds like a really important piece of the puzzle for building truly useful enterprise agents.
Okay, and for the really heavy lifting, the deep learning side, any specialized compute.
Yes. Serverless GPU compute is now in beta.
Serverless GPUs.
Yeah. It's specifically designed for those custom deep learning workloads, both single and multi-node. Think training, fine-tuning. You get the GPU power and efficiency without needing to manage the underlying cluster infrastructure yourself. That's kind of a big deal for DL practitioners on Databricks.
I bet. Less ops overhead.
Exactly. And one more on the AI infrastructure side. Mosaic AI Vector Search now has storage-optimized endpoints in public preview.
Storage optimized. meaning bigger capacity. Significantly bigger. We're talking capacity for over 1 billion vectors, say at dimension 768. Plus, they offer something like 10 to 20 times faster indexing compared to the standard endpoints.
Wow.
And the pricing is optimized for those larger vector counts. So it makes working with truly massive vector databases for things like Raj much more feasible and cost-effective.
Okay, lots happening in AI. Now, shifting gears a bit, Databricks seems to be unifying its data engineering tools under a new name, Lakeflow. What's the story there? What does this mean for engineers building pipelines and jobs?
Yeah, Lakeflow is the new umbrella term. It signals this unified vision Databricks has for data engineering. So you'll see Databricks Jobs is now called Lakeflow Jobs, and Delta Live Tables, or DLT, is now Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines.
Okay, so primarily a rebranding. Do I need to migrate anything?
No, that's the key message. No migration needed for your existing jobs or DLT pipelines. It's really about reflecting this consolidated product strategy. And you'll see this in the UI too. The left navigation menu had been cleaned up. There's now a single jobs and pipelines entry point, which houses all the Lakeflow features. It replaces the old separate pipelines and workflows items, just aims for a more, streamlined experience.
Got it. A cleaner look, unified branding. Are there actual feature enhancements within Lakeflow we should know about?
Yes, definitely. For change data capture, the recommendation is shifted. The new auto CDC APIs are preferred over the older apply-wide changes syntax for creating CDC flows in Lakeflow declarative pipelines.
Auto CDC APIs available in SQL and Python.
Both SQL and Python APIs are available, yeah. It's meant to simplify setting up those change data feed pipelines.
Okay, what else?
File arrival triggers with file events is now generally available. This is pretty cool. It lets you trigger job runs based on files landing in external storage like S3, Azure Storage, or GCS.
We had file arrival triggers before, didn't we? What's new?
The limits are way higher now. You can have up to 1,000 triggers per workspace, and they removed that old limit of, I think, 10,000 files per trigger. So it's much more robust for event-driven ingestion patterns.
That's a significant improvement.
Also, for managing complex ETL, you can now move streaming tables and materialize views between pipelines. That's in public preview and adds quite a bit of flexibility within Unity Catalog.
Helpful for refactoring pipelines.
Exactly. And finally, for folks still using the older legacy publishing mode for Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines, there's now a way to migrate to the default mode, which lets you publish tables to multiple catalogs and schemas. More architectural flexibility there.
All right, makes sense. Now, Databricks keeps pushing on data interoperability and just expanding what the platform offers. What's new on the sharing and storage side? Especially thinking about open formats like Iceberg.
Yeah, interoperability, especially with Apache Iceberg, is a huge focus. We've got several updates here, all in public preview for now. First, managed Apache Iceberg tables.
Managed Iceberg. So Databricks manages the metadata in files.
Right. You can read and write these tables from Databricks or even from external Iceberg engines. And importantly, they integrate with Databricks optimizations like automatic liquid clustering.
Okay, so Iceberg treated like a first-class citizen.
Pretty much. Then there are foreign Apache Iceberg tables, also public preview. This lets you use Lakehouse Federation to read Iceberg tables that are actually managed outside Databricks.
Like in Glue or Hive Metastore or even Snowflake Horizon.
Exactly. And the cool part is, even though the data lives elsewhere, you get Unity Catalog features layered on top, fine-grained access control, lineage, auditing, the works.
That's powerful for integrating existing Iceberg setup.
Absolutely. And tying it together, you can now share managed Iceberg tables using Delta Sharing. Again, public preview. This works for both Databricks to Databricks sharing and open sharing scenarios with non-Databricks consumers.
Really opening up Delta sharing beyond just Delta tables. What other Delta sharing improvements are there?
Cross-platform view sharing is now GA. So you're not limited to sharing just tables anymore. You can share views created on top of your data.
Views, okay. That adds flexibility.
It does. Comes with some updates to how data access and billing work for shared views, a new system table to track materialization history, and admin controls over the TTL for materialized data. Also, just a performance note, history sharing is now enabled by default for Databricks to Databricks Delta sharing. This is GA and helps improve read performance on shared tables.
Okay, performance tweaks are always welcome. Now, I saw something that looked, well, pretty different. Lakebase, a managed PostgreSQL database.
Yes. This is a big one, currently in public preview. Lakebase is essentially a managed PostgreSQL OLTP database engine, fully integrated into the Databricks platform.
So a transactional database right alongside my lakehouse data.
Exactly. It provides dedicated PostgreSQL-compatible storage and compute specifically for those operational transactional workloads. But it lives within the same governed Databricks environment.
So you could potentially manage operational and analytical data without having to stitch together separate systems.
That's the vision. Simplify the data architecture, reduce ETL complexity between your OLTP systems and your lakehouse. It's a pretty significant addition to the platform's capabilities.
Definitely one to watch. What about connecting to other common data sources? Any new connectors?
Yeah, a couple of notable ones. There's a Microsoft SharePoint connector now in beta. It's a fully managed connector within Lakeflow Connect. Lets you ingest data from SharePoint lists and libraries. API-based pipeline creation is supported too.
SharePoint. Lots of data locked up there for many orgs.
For sure. And also, a Salesforce Data Cloud file sharing connector is in public preview. This one's interesting because it's a zero-copy approach.
Zero copy, meaning you query the Salesforce data directly.
Essentially, yes. It uses file federation, which means better performance and query pushdown, especially if you're dealing with large data sets in Salesforce Data Cloud, compared to maybe traditional API-based ingestion.
Gotcha. And one more thing on the table management front, converting external tables.
Right. There's a new capability in public preview to convert an external table to a Unity Catalog managed table. You can use the alter table, set managed command.
So easily bring existing external tables fully under UC management.
Exactly. Lets you take advantage of all the enhanced governance, reliability, and performance features of managed tables without a painful migration process. Just flip the switch, basically.
Okay, neat. All right, nearly there. Let's wrap up with a quick look at anything new for developers or global reach.
Sure. For developers using Java, the new Databricks JDBC Driver is now open source.
Open source, so community contributions are welcome?
Yep. The source code is up on GitHub under Apache 2.0. Increases transparency, allows for community input.
Good move. And geographically.
Databricks has landed in a new AWS region, Asia Pacific, Jakarta. That's IQ Southeast 3. So better performance, data residency options for organizations in or near Indonesia.
Always good to see the footprint expanding. Anything else? Little fixes.
A practical one. They corrected the job name values in the system .billing.usage table. Apparently, one-time runs weren't showing the job name correctly before. Now, usage metadata.jobname should accurately reflect the job name, which is, helpful for cost tracking.
Accurate billing data is always important.
And finally, there's a new consumer entitlement that's generally available.
Consumer entitlement. For what kind of user?
It's designed for users who primarily need to consume data and insights, but don't need to create or manage things. Think business users. Workspace admins can grant this entitlement, and it gives limited UI access, basically, querying SQL warehouses and viewing dashboards, but not authoring notebooks or managing jobs. More fine-grained access control.
Okay, makes sense for certain roles. Phew, that was a lot. So stepping back, what does this torrent of June updates really mean for you, the listener? It feels like a clear push towards, well, more robust enterprise governance, a richer AML story, that unified Lakeflow experience for data engineering, and just broader data interoperability.
Definitely. Databricks is clearly aiming to make the platform more capable, more integrated, and frankly, easier to manage, even as complexity grows.
It's a significant set of enhancements.
Yeah, and if we try to, connect the dots here, the consistent thread seems to be enabling these more complex, more secure, more integrated data and AI workflows, all directly within the Databricks platform, trying to be that central hub.
Which leads to, I think, an interesting question for you to ponder. As platforms like Databricks consolidate more and more capabilities, OLTP, AI governance, CDC, open format support, how does that actually influence your data architecture strategy? What does it mean for your team skills? Does this consolidation open up new opportunities or maybe introduce new challenges or dependencies you need to think about?
That's a great question to chew on. How does this platform evolution change your world? Definitely something to consider. Thanks for diving deep with us today on these Databricks updates. We hope this breakdown was useful. We'll be back soon with another deep dive.